Hi, I'm Ken Hackshaw. Welcome to another session of Risk Unfiltered, where we engage folks from academia, entrepreneurs, CEOs, board members, budding entrepreneurs, anyone that can add to or improve the risk intelligence of the Caribbean community, or anyone that has a path or is building a trail that we would like to follow. And I think I have someone like that. Aldwyn Wayne is the CEO and founder of a technology company. And by way of technology company, I'll ask Aldwyn to expand on that. Aldwyn, welcome to Risk Unfiltered. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule, my friend.
Hey Ken, how you doing? Thanks for having me. What's the weather like in Miami, buddy?
It's 84 degrees, sunny, palm trees blowing, and if this doesn't take too long, I'm by the pool in like 45 minutes.
Good. Sound like a plan. Just send me a picture because I'm still in office, so there's no proof.
Okay, so Wayne, so when I say you are the founder and CEO of a technology company, why don't you expand on that term, technology company, and share with us some of the disciplines or the businesses that the organization is involved in?
Sure. So we founded a company called WiPay about 3 years ago, and it is a tech company, but it's in the financial space. What happened was it had a strong need for moving financial services into the technology arena. And, it's happening all over the world. We felt in the Caribbean we were a bit behind. So we created this company that bridged that gap between financial services and technology. We created this company that would allow for, the average Joe to, be part of that financial system for online payments and digital payments. That wasn't quite readily available yet in the Caribbean, So it's similar to a PayPal, but it works with Caribbean banks.
But you're much more than in the payment processing space. So can you expand on that? What else technology-wise are you going into, or that you are in? And I know that you just signed a great new initiative there to get into cryptocurrency. So just give us, you don't have to necessarily get the details, but where are your fingers? How many different pies are your fingers in right now that you could share with us?
Fingers and toes. So yeah, we started, like I said, providing that service, right. But that's the platform and the foundation of the platform. Online payments through credit card processing, was just the beginning. We've partnered with MasterCard through card issuance. We have partnerships with the top 2 money transfer companies in the world to start doing remittance back to the Caribbean through our platform. We've partnered with Tunes. We've partnered with a lot of international financial services providers, digital financial services providers, to bring a range of technology solutions to the Caribbean. You mentioned partnership with MTech. Okay. They built that cryptocurrency for Bahamas, the sand dollar. We have aspirations of working with central banks to not create a local cryptocurrency, but a currency that will be able to be traded between islands. So our reliance on the U.S. as that medium for exchange, we can move away from it, and that's just a few. That's the 10 fingers in the pie.
Okay. All right. So
next time.
All right. So let's take that and these are it's going to be sort of like heavy lifting questions. If you have to rank where the Caribbean, let's start with Trinidad and Tobago, where you are now physically. And I know WiPay or your companies are operate across the Caribbean. Let's start with Trinidad and Tobago. If you have to rank Trinidad and Tobago by way of its technology capacity and where they are technologically, from 0 to 5, 0 being not there at all, 5 being top of the class, where would you rank Trinidad and Tobago in terms of use of technology, entities using technology to drive business? How would you rank us from 0 to 5?
Right, so that would be just about 1.82.
Okay, all right, so let's extrapolate. If you were to rank the Caribbean as an entity in use of technology, how would you rank the Caribbean as a marketplace? 0 to 5, same ranking.
As a marketplace, see, the larger market will skew the scale.
I understand that, but
So
take a crack at it.
I'll put it up there at 5.
At 5, okay. Now, so why then, if the Caribbean is ranked, notwithstanding the number being skewed a bit, if the Caribbean is ranked at close to 5, why is Trinidad and Tobago ranked at 1.8, close to 2?
So the ease of doing business,
Right.
You can have all the technology, because I'm from Trinidad, right? I have a number of friends, partners, associates that come up with great tech, great solutions.
Right.
And I'm 30 something now, and I've been having these conversations since I got back from university. Why are all great tech heading outside? We build a solution, there's no uptake, then it goes outside and you hear about it. I was reading just yesterday where this Trinidadian in Kansas had Magic Johnson and a bunch of basketballers invest like $10 million in his company for some tech that he built.
Wow.
Right? And I'm pretty sure he was here and left. So brain drain is real, but it's not only in academia. It's in almost all sectors of society where you don't feel or you don't have the necessary tools to grow your product. So then when you find when you look and you find that environment that would help foster your product, it's 9 times out of 10 not in Trinidad. So that's what's stunting our growth. You need to have an environment conducive to growth, and not one where the enablers think that they're the ones that should be driving growth. What do I mean?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Look at the US over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
After, NASA has been running, space and space projects for 50 something years.
Yes. Yeah.
In 2012, I think it was Obama, they started the shuttle program, and then they made it open. They start saying, listen, we let private entities help us perfect technologies to take us back into space, back to the moon, and further on. Right? Not a government entity. We will be the enablers. So what did they do? They created this special committee that granted contracts, billion-dollar contracts for people that have ideas, viable ideas. So all that Blue Origin stuff that you see with Jeff Bezos and SpaceX and
Elon Musk,
getting billion-dollar contracts to build their ideas. And then when it's successful, NASA is now going to use it, right? So they're not doing R&D. They still are, but now they have other people doing R&D. They made it a capital-driven market based on who has the best solution, not who has the best connection or who has the best friend, right? So, you saw again, I'm using NASA. You saw Jeff Bezos put out a release saying that he's going to push back his rocket till 2022 because he lost a contract to SpaceX and SLA. Why? They won a contract because their rocket was working.
Yeah.
Yours can't fly. So this is the thing.
Yeah. So
what is the incubation or incubator tools for fostering growth? What is it for a tech company to grow its business here in the Caribbean? There isn't any, right? And the second you do start growing, they start comparing that solution to something that they feel comfortable with and not trying to grow it and try to understand that new solution. They say, oh, maybe that's not going to work because it's not traditional. And that's what I mean by ease of doing business.
I could share some similar war stories given the space I operate in. One of the mantras that I put forth is, and there's a plethora of case studies to support that the greatest risk to any institution is its people, the decision makers. And so if we stay on the same topic, and we regard, and they are Trinidad and Tobago as an institution, if the decision makers are not receptive to not on the same playing field or operating on the same page as, say, the entrepreneurs are, then we'll be working and operating in a deficient space. Yes? Okay, so how do we improve that? Let me frame the question this way, Aldwyn. Thus far, what has been your greatest failure or most significant failure?
So this is the thing. I see everything as a lesson, right?
Okay.
It's a failure by some assessments.
Let's take that, and I totally accept that. What has not been as successful as you would have liked it to be? Which business venture? I'm picking that up based on the conversations we had around, say, the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos and they, because you're the 0.14 version in the essence of full disclosure, and I'm proud to say we left our umbilical cord somewhere in point.
Okay, so I'll start with businesses, right?
Yes,
so,
yeah.
As you mentioned, Point. I do own a cable company in Point.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's Cedros, right? That probably wasn't as successful as I would want it to be. Because, when I started, I was thinking, hey, I'm the next Flow.
Right.
But it was a niche market, right? I could not have grown outside of Point Fortin, outside of Cedros, because I would be competing with people who had a lot lower operating expense because, they're.
All right. Okay, so were there any lessons learned? So we're getting into the convergence of the risk management discipline and entrepreneurship and technology. So what were the lessons learned from that not so successful venture?
Right, lessons learned, and I think this is part of what I say it was. I don't even see it as a failure.
Right.
Lessons that was learned from that is understand where you're going to be in 5 years. Understand, is this business going to go where you want it to go? All right. I went into a business, we invested money, we made back our money, of course. The room for growth outside of Cedros wasn't there. Outside of Cedros was Point Fortin, Labrix, San Fernando, and so forth.
Right.
And they already had Flow and other providers. So you can't compete with those companies because they have scale and size.
Right.
So we were creating a business that was a niche business, which we knew when we started, but it had no room for growth outside of that region. And then if Flow do come in, you now have competition. So you may now lose some market share based on the fact that there's competition in the market. Right. So what I learned, understand where your business is going to be in the next 5 years before you start. So you understand the vision, but think of what are the competitions, not the competitions you have right now, the competition you're going to have once you're successful. I do that right now with WiPay. Right. I don't have competition right now, but in my mind, I know I'm going to have competition 6 months from now because they see success. And what are we going to do to make sure that competition is second to us at all times? What are we going to do a year from now that's going to be better than someone who's trying to duplicate us now? And that's what I learned from that first company that I started in Cedros,
And so you apply those learning concepts to everything you do now going forward. Yes. Okay. Right. So good. So let's flip that. What has been your most successful venture thus far? And similarly, what lessons have you learned from that? And before you answer, so even when you are most successful, you do a project and you kick it out of the park, you should then do an analysis as to why was this project so successful. One of the good reasons for doing so is because you want to repeat whatever you did or improve upon that. So what was your most successful venture? And what have you learned from that venture thus far?
I'm going to measure success not in terms of money's made or value or whatever.
Okay. Like target achieved or objective achieved. Right. Yeah.
In terms of projects or companies, it would be my own company. So, if anyone is from Point Fortin, they would know of Wayne's phone store or Wayne's B-Mobile. My family, we own electronic stores, and we have one in Point Fortin. And I remember the time I was working at Petrotrin. I hated it. I just graduated from school. I'm a hotshot, Georgia grad. And you have me sitting in an office doing nothing all day. I was getting paid really well, but I wasn't driven enough to like that job because it was, rinse, what is it? Shampoo, rinse, and repeat every day. And it wasn't fun. This was in 2008. Just got out of school, 21, 22. And it's also my favorite story to tell. B-Mobile, at that point in time, it was TSTT Empower. They came to Point Fortin and was like, listen, we are looking for a flagship location for one of our stores. Because outside of San Fernando High Street, there's no B-Mobile stores. And at that point in time, Empower was probably, a phone company that was dedicated to a very small market. Phone back then was like $3,000, it was expensive. So it wasn't for the average guy, right? But hey, it was the ability to own my own business. I left Petrotrin to the chagrin of all my friends. Everyone was like, are you crazy? You're gonna leave Petrotrin to go open a phone store. Remember, this is 2008 now.
Yeah.
This is prior to all this phone explosion. To go sell phones. Phones that only people with $3,000 in their pocket could buy. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I see. I took the 5-year analysis and I'm like, I'm pretty sure phones is what it's gonna be at, right? This is before these smartphones. These were phones.
Before analog, yeah. The old Me Too, let's say. Yeah.
This is just before Me Too. So Me Too was around, it would make sense, right? So I left Petrotrin in November. In October, I started this company in November. I'm sitting on a stool. That's what they used to call it. Wayne is sitting on a stool in probably a 20 by 20 room with phones that I was getting $500 commission on a phone. But back then, you were selling 2 phones a week, sometimes 1 phone a week. It's so much.
Right.
Because the phones were like $3,000, $4,000. Right? The only people who was buying was Petrotrin big boys.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea what TST's real agenda was. Their real agenda in November was to rebrand Empower into something called B-Mobile, because there's this company out of Ireland called Digicel that was about to launch in the market the next year. So TST decided that they want to flood the markets with phones. So for Christmas, they dropped the Me Too, which was $100 for a phone. I still was getting commission at $500. TSTT did not adjust my contract. So I'm selling a phone for $100, but getting $500 commission. You might say it's a mistake. You might say it's luck. I say opportunity met preparedness. I was prepared for that opportunity. I left Petrotrin for that opportunity.
Yeah.
I did not know about it, but I was putting myself in that position. That Christmas, I sold 5,000 phones, made just over $5 million. I bought a house in Highland Park and I bought my Hilux. That business propelled every other business.
Right.
And the reason why I love that, and it was my greatest success story, is because when the opportunity came and I was a Petrotrin, everyone was saying, you're making, like 18 grand a month at 21 years old. That's a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Back then too, yeah.
Right, living at your mom's and dad's house. But for me, I didn't want to bet on Petrotrin. I wanted to bet on me. You asked me, like, what's my greatest fear or what's my greatest weakness? I'm like, it's me. I'm my greatest fear. Failure is my greatest fear, not being the best version of me. Yeah. I'm not fearful of anything that anyone outside of me controls, because I think, if I put my mind to it, I'll get the best results. So that's my greatest success story.
Okay, good. So let's piggyback on that. And you touch on 3 points there that are key to what a risk practitioner will recommend or do. And let's start with you. So we have a term called, and since if we agree that people risk is the greatest risk to any organization, a sub-risk or subset of that is someone we call a key person risk. So Aldwyn Wayne, and a key person risk would be defined as a person or a team that if
people come and try to sell me insurance all the time, but
right. So if you elope now, you jump on that yacht that you want to buy, that's parked.
I don't want to buy a yacht.
It's parked somewhere in Fort Lauderdale there. You probably looked at it. And you jump on that. If you were to up and leave, and so this speaks to 2 things. addressing key risks, business continuity, or some folks like to call it succession planning. I'm not speaking of succession planning. If you were to up and leave the organization, what happens to the organization? Or let me frame it like this. God forbid you were to become incapacitated. You lose your voice. You went and you did an all-inclusive fit and you can't speak. You have a hangover for like 3 weeks. What happens to WiPay?
WiPay on a day-to-day basis, I don't actually do anything on a day-to-day basis. My focus is growth. Okay. I have an operational manager that deals on a day-to-day basis. He gives me an update.
Good. Okay. So forget daily operations. By way of growth and development and R&D and what I like to call horizon scanning. Because two things you mentioned, Aldwyn Wayne, is you mentioned two entities that for all intents and purposes, one is now defunct, one almost was defunct, Petrotrin, TSTT. So let's park that aside for a second. And before we end, we'll come back to them. So by way of future proofing, another risk term that I like to use, with respect to future proofing WiPay, if you aren't around, will WiPay succeed going forward? The day-to-day operations and what they now do, fine. But in going to the next level and future-proofing the organization, how will they fare if Aldwyn Wayne isn't there?
We have our 5-year plan laid out. My management team understands the 5-year plan.
Okay.
In terms of how we're going to execute it, if it's going to be as good as I do it, maybe not. But I'm very, very confident in my team for what we have planned for the next 5 years.
Okay.
And growth in the Caribbean and into the US.
Okay, so let me throw a wrench into that wheel. And if COVID has taught anyone anything, is this: if you have a 5-year plan, and this is me advocating for effective risk management. So risk is defined as the effect of uncertainty on achieving an objective. If there's any deviation or if there's any disruption, as let's say has occurred with COVID, as good as your team is, and I'm knowing one or two of them, I'm sure they are. It's not how comfortable you are with them as it is. It's how comfortable will you be, or are you, or can you be with if there's a massive disruption that you have to deviate from your plans. And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, and one or two of them probably sitting there watching you, but go ahead, take a crack at it.
I spoke to my management team a number of times. What my vision is. So maybe I should clarify. In terms of executing, that falls squarely on me in terms of the type of execution I like. But as I tell my team, your job is to understand Aldwyn. It's never, ever going to go according to plan, ever. Okay. Right? So we don't actually plan to go according to plan. We have a framework that we want to work within, and we pivot. That's our true value.
That's a good word.
Pivot, like almost every month. You would not believe that, right? Because we are putting a service to the public, and the public, it's a lot of people, and they have different values in what they think a service should be. So, although we make a decision here, WiPay, based on how the public responds, we pivot and change a lot to make sure that end product fits in line with what they expect.
So then, with that,
what I want each one of my team members in a managerial position to have. So moving forward, what I'm doing is not teaching or not trying to have a company that follows Aldwyn, but to have a team that understands how I would pursue a challenge, so that if I'm not around, we get as close to Aldwyn as possible in terms of how we resolve that issue.
So then you using the word, let's take the word pivot out. So would you, based on what you have just shared, I guess we can say you have a very agile organization or leadership team where if there's the need to pivot, your structure and your processes can be easily or readily changed to suit that new environment or that disruption that may occur. So your organization or your structure is agile enough that it could shift on demand. I did a podcast with two female entrepreneurs. And I intentionally use the word female for a reason. We mentioned ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago, and you and I may be fortunate enough that we can operate across different ponds, across different waters. For those who are restricted by way of Trinidad and Tobago is the only playground they can play. given the challenges you and I would have spoken to, what advice would you have for, we have one listening to us right now, well, actually two, to keep pushing that envelope? You spoke to, having a vision and having a, probably seeing the end, even while you're starting. But at some point in time, and if we use the phone company to see us, you have to know when to say when, right? So part of what we need to do as risk practitioners is put processes and probably even templates in place that says, well, it's something like key risk indicators that says, okay, if this flag goes off, yeah, but let's take it from a straight up entrepreneurial view. Is Trinidad and Tobago, and then I'll ask the same question, Caribbean, fertile ground for starting a business and seeing it to the end? And fertile is the operative word there.
For the better part of last year, and before that, on every webinar or seminar I've been on, have been preaching to SMEs, entrepreneurs, anyone that's looking to start a business. Now is the perfect time. Trinidad is not your starting ground. The world is.
Right.
The internet is the greatest equalizer. Pick a profession, anyone, for entrepreneur. Something that you don't think deserves to be on.
Entertainment.
Entertainment.
Let's stick with that. And then I want to marry that with a conversation I had with Private Ryan. Go ahead.
So I'm Private Ryan. I want to start.
Or Anisha Bish, who is on the call. So you're speaking to Anisha, you're working in that space.
What is you would like to start, Anisha? And I'll tell you why it's not even going to be in Trinidad. Go ahead, tell me.
Anisha, you have some input there, Anisha? Question, you want to interject? What I asked Aldwyn was, is Trinidad and Tobago a good starting ground? And I picked a starting ground or initiator for entrepreneurs. And he asked me to pick an industry, and I said, okay, entertainment. And I know you in the entertainment space.
Yes.
So, Aldwyn, you had a question for Anisha.
I was saying to Anisha, tell me what industry you're in. And I would explain to Ken how I see that industry is not going to be rooted in Trinidad if I had to start that tomorrow. I want to start a promotion business. Before, for you to get into the promotion business, you had to at least have a client for referrals, because nobody's going to pick you as an upstart, yeah?
Yeah.
It's very difficult, right? You had to be in that know for someone to know you, because the Cashman pool is just that group of entertainment businesses or companies that exist here in Trinidad. Here's the thing, build your company online. Build your company for a global audience, with of course the Caribbean as your flavor. So you see on Olympics, you see in the NBA, you see all over where opening ceremonies, halftime shows, you see carnival type entertainment stuff. You see carnival events being put on for Wheel of Fortune, right?
Yeah.
There are people looking for it. But if we look only here, then that's going to be our market. So I create now, export Trinidad Carnival to the world. I'm a promoter. Just understand what the world is trying to buy from Trinidad or from this region. And I create a website that says, I'm going to export Carnival and have beautiful pictures to the world. Click here for consulting services.
Yes.
I know I have someone in New York who's looking for this. I SOE on Google and make sure my search come up on top. That's search optimization. I have a Facebook and Instagram page, and I tag. Every time I post an image on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I tag a big production company. I tag one of those big, NBA and Olympics type companies, right? So now I'm not selling to people in Trinidad.
Yeah.
I put out an ad, or I have a announcement of WiPay partners with, I don't know, MasterCard. And you would not believe my inboxes. Investors, partners, American Express, everyone. Because the internet is global. And this is what, as a budding entrepreneur, we need to see and realize. The game is now equalized. It has been equalized because of the internet. I don't need a building. I don't need to have overheads to start a business. and I have the world as my marketplace. Once I know how to market.
Right. So let me jump on that for a second. So you said you have spoken to SMEs and probably some of these incubators and stuff like that, entities like that. Are you comfortable that the use of technology as a means to start and drive and propel a business, is that being pushed enough at these forums that you speak with or that you know of?
No,
No.
I'm mostly the guy. On Friday, I was in a forum and I had, a government person talking about how slow, this amount of business and this has started up and it's difficult to do business during COVID. And I literally came on after her and said, I see it completely opposite.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, you should realize that you should be starting a business in that physical way. Because a year from now, when COVID 20 or COVID 21, because we're right now at COVID 19.
Yeah. And there's more to come. There's more to come, yeah.
Right? What's going to happen? You're going to be in the same situation if you're trying to build your business in the same way pre-COVID 19. So learn from it. Why are we trying to start physical businesses when even years before COVID, you travel to the States, all the malls are closing down, all the large department stores are going bankrupt.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense trying to do business how you know business traditionally. If you're not starting a business online, you're wasting time.
Right. So you know what, Wayne? So here's my challenge for the Caribbean and most of Trinidad and Tobago. And so I have this maxim where I say, if you can think it, you can act on it. And the education of our folks in high school and going into college, and even at folks who are already in the workspace, if you don't educate the young budding entrepreneurs on the proper use of technology, not just technology, because technology is obviously more than just IG and Facebook, right? And how technology can or should be used to now develop and propel your business. Until that happens, entrepreneurs will still be looking to open up a kiosk, and some of those are needed. And a good example being I think one of the folks on the call owns a company that manufactures ingredients for gluten-free products, Miss Lewis. So yeah, you still need the bricks and mortar piece of the business, but to drive, sell, and to bring on new customers, technology plays a part, and technology probably plays a part in developing these the raw materials. So okay, long context, direct question: how do we then get the role of government is to are enablers. Most of these teaching institutions are government run. How do we then, and you're technologists, and the same applies to what we do in the risk management space, and we have something in store to do that, where we're going to be offering free risk management workshops to secondary schools up to a certain level and young adults. How do you then become an advocate? How can Aldwyn Wayne assist in helping drive that new technology rethink that's needed?
So like stuff like this. Like I told you, on Friday I was on one, Wednesday was on one as well. Just trying to allow what I've learned,
right.
how I got out from that mindset that I required something to be something, if that makes sense. Everything that I need, I have. And this have nothing to do with having a dad who was in business. Right. This have to do with understanding that you can go or create something from spending time on the internet, learning what you need to learn to put it out there. My son is 12, we're going on 13. And he has, like, as I told you, he has a Twitch account, he has a YouTube account, he is learning to code all on his own, Yeah. He's like, okay, I wanna create a better WiPay. And he's learning coding just because, who his dad is.
That's good. And if we could extrapolate on that point, there was a study done, and I think Bill Gates was asked this question, that there are very few African American, or if we use the word Black coders in folks who are doing writing the code in these big technology companies, right? So when they're talking about Black Lives Matter and diversifying, most of them are Asian, from that continent.
Before you go, why you think? Let me ask you a
question.
question.
No, I was gonna pose that question to you. You're the technologist. Why? Because, and I'm piggybacking what you said about your son getting into code. So part of it is probably influence and access.
All right. So
right.
You want to keep it unfiltered, right? You're from Trinidad, right?
Yeah. Keep it straight, bro.
Ask me this, right? When you go to a Chinese restaurant, who's normally taking your order?
Yeah.
Mom, dad, and a little Smallie is on the ground. Although she has her schoolwork, she's on the ground taking your order. By the time she is 8, 9, 10, she knows the entire menu. She can speak both Mandarin and English.
Yeah.
So she could go tell the cook, hey, egg fried rice in Mandarin, and come out and tell you better than her mom and dad could in English. Same thing happens with most of the other races, right? But with us, we are taught from the second we start school that we need to get a good job to go work for somebody.
Yeah.
Go get an education to work for somebody. This is why my friends who were mostly Black and Indian, when I left Petrotrin, they could understand because that's what they were conditioned. Go work for somebody and get a good job. Petrotrin was a good job. Me, I said, listen, you know the name that's in front of that building? You know what it says? It says Wayne. That's me. You know how much money I could make? Although right now I'm only making $500 a week. You know how much money I can make? However hard I work over the next 10 years, that business can make me whatever amount. If I want to make $1 million a month, I can make that just how hard I work.
Right.
I'm conditioned that way.
Right.
They were conditioned to think I need to work for a company. And I told them, you know what the MPO, the Manager of Production Operations, which was the highest position in Petrotrin and Point Fortin, if he works for 80 grand a month, I could outdo that in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I did it. I outdid it in 1 month. You can say it's not with TSTT, but you get my point.
Yeah. I do.
There's no limitations if
you
understand that, you have that power. But we are conditioned to think we need to go to school to go work. And that's why we don't go programming, because we didn't see the money in it. We wanted to be doctors and lawyers and whatever, which is fine. We know we need those.
Which is needed, yeah.
But we also need someone or some group, a few of us, to start looking at the opportunities bigger than working for
Yeah.
Right? My sister is a doctor. Okay,
right.
This one.
Right, and our education system is not there yet. So there's this, you hear the drive to small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurial, but that mindset needs to be built and inculcated from way young. Using your 12, almost 13-year-old son as an example. So Aldwyn Wayne, your technology company is moving along a certain continuum and a positive continuum at that. How can WiPay, the technology company, how could you bring along now other companies, obviously much smaller? How can someone grab the coattail of WiPay? I'm not going to say Aldwyn Wayne because that goes back to that's going to add to your key risk mindset more than it already is. How can smaller, or what type of smaller businesses and entities could hold the coattails of WiPay and move with you and move with the organization? How can you pull them along as opposed to having them push? How can you pull them along? So if it's possible.
I won't even say pull them along. I would say, and this I have been doing.
Okay.
Listen, guys, it's our time now.
Oh, define our. Define our.
Our is not a Black thing or Indian thing. Our is for anyone.
Entrepreneurs, sole business, business owners.
If you didn't have, $100 million or a daddy to give you $1 million to start a business, You know, Donald said, hey, my dad only gave me $1 million to start my business. Right. He's not our, right? Our is the working class man, white, black, and different, doesn't matter. You know, but you didn't come from a place of opportunity, right? In your mind. The opportunity is right there. The opportunity is right there. And for me, my thing is, let's have that conversation. Don't want to be like WiPay, be better. Be better at WiPay in whatever it is you're going to do. And I'm going to encourage you to do that. Come sit with me, talk about your idea, and we're going to figure out how we can make you great, right? And if it means WiPay being associated with you, so you get some branding with WiPay, fine. But what it is Aldwyn is just one. If there's 15 of us, it's better than having one Aldwyn and 14 lying behind it. Right. Because if I fall, that's it. I don't want people behind me. I want people alongside me or in front of me. So I keep getting better, and there's someone either to the left or to the right that if you try to knock me down, you got 14 others to the left or the right of me that you need to knock down.
Okay. So how it's been, and we'll end on this one. How receptive, how conducive has the financial sector to, because you're competing with them in certain spaces, yeah, and we wouldn't single out any one entity per se, but are they viewing you as a competitor of theirs, or are they thinking you as huh?
I thought you had no filter. Call on them now.
No, that's for you to do. If you call, I'll whistle, like my mom used to say. You call a name and I'll whistle. But are they? Is that because you mentioned, you know, you want folks along with you, which is spot on, because I'm of the same thinking. Well, you're much more than just, you know, you're more than just finance in my eyes. But you're most of your companies right now are operating in that sphere, in that industry. Is that industry? I know they view you as a competitor. Will they try, as a competitor, try to keep you down or to bring you up as a fellow Trinbagonian or company, or is a smash them, you know, screw you over kind of environment and survival for the fittest?
So I don't see us as a competitor. We are an enabler.
Okay.
Enable.
But do they see you as a competitor?
Of course. So we're trying to enable the disenfranchised who won't go to a financial institution because, you know, their services doesn't really resonate with them. So that's what we're trying to do. We are still piggybacking off of a financial institution. We're just packaging solutions in a way that, you know, the average person, could accept it. But for a lot of, you know, financial institutions, they will see that as competition, right?
Is that anachronistic animosity, or is there mutual respect? And because where I'm getting to, Aldwyn, is this, yeah? So we have some entrepreneurs online, and a lot of entrepreneurs will be listening to this. So in terms of, you said looking, I call it future-proofing. One needs to know two things critically, and you mentioned this. Who are my competitors? Yeah, you must know that. So you may not view some of these banking institutions, let's be real, as competitors, because you're operating from a different space. But let's put you aside. But for the entrepreneurs on the call and the ones who will be listening to this, they have to identify who their competitors are. So what's behind the specific question I'm asking you is the landscape called Trinidad and Tobago. And let's introduce some ethnicity in there as we did, because there's a plethora of case studies that says in the risk space, your religion, your education, your gender, your race determines how you think about risk. Yeah. How should the budding entrepreneur think about getting into the technologies? Let's say fintech. So there's another Aldwyn Wayne who will listen to this. Well, there's no other Aldwyn Wayne, but I think you get the picture. There's someone who says, listen, I want to get into fintech. What should be that person's expectation given the landscape for Trinidad and Tobago and the players currently in that space? What would you advise as what you should expect, and then how do you manage that expectation? Because it's not warm and fuzzy, all embracing. They're not going to hug up and sing kumbaya. So give some guidance to the young fintech entrepreneur.
It's impossible.
Booyah.
But
doable. That's a strong word. So as they say in Parliament, retract that statement.
It's impossible.
It's really impossible?
It's impossible. But if you believe that you could conquer the impossible, that's your mentality you need to have.
Okay.
Right? I can tell you, when we started, they told me no 5 times. Like, no, don't do it. I'm like, okay. And I did it anyway, and they wrote me letters and say, Central Bank, everyone. I'm like, okay, I'll come, I'm gonna listen, but the country needs this. So what I'm saying is, you can't just say, oh, I see Aldwyn and I want to do that. Then you're gonna fail. You have to want to do it beyond what I'm doing. You know, I didn't see anyone doing it. I did it out of a need to help people, right? I did it out of a need to make sure that, you know what, the status quo doesn't just continue. So, I mean, if you know half of the story, you know, which you should, if you buy my book, buy my book, it would explain a lot of the things that took place early on, that everyone around me was like, are you crazy? Why are you standing up to this person? Or why are you, you know, going, you know, locking horns with these people? I'm like, he's a guy, I'm a guy. Whatever.
But so you're advising, you're not saying don't get into that particular space. You're saying, I think what I'm hearing you say is recognize what are the significant hurdles you may run into. Yeah. But if you have that passion and that drive and that wherewithal, then yeah, you're gonna face a given the landscape called Trinidad and probably some of the other Caribbean entities. Once you know what are your obstacles, what are your risks, then you can work through some of those risks. Not all of them, because you won't be able to mitigate all, but you can work through some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not through, around.
Yeah. Or around.
You have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Like if you're being driven, if your drive is to make $2, then
yeah,
do something easy.
Okay. It will be remiss of me if I don't ask your take before we say our goodbyes. What's your take on WASA, the Water and Sewage Authority of Trinidad and Tobago? Given what is in the public domain, what are your, and as a technologist, what and a business owner, what's your take?
It's government run. It was government run. What you expect? And this is not only Trinidad. This is, you know, around most of
the Caribbean,
developing countries around the world. You know, government run means, you know, more politics than business.
More bureaucracy than
the decisions are not driven by, you know, the business. It's driven by the politics. You know, and that's what it is. The chickens have come home to roost, or the roosters have come home to roost.
Yeah, but so then you don't, if so even with a transformation, if some serious independence is not derived from this transformation, it's going to be, it will be rinse and repeat, eh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You can't have a business being dictated by politics.
Yeah.
Right? And the second that happens, which happens in a lot of businesses, is when you run into problems, you know? The numbers need to drive the business.
You have time for one question.
I heard the end of an interview, Aldwyn. This is Charlene, that you had some last week concerning digital currency. So I was wondering if it's your plan. I know the local financial institutions, they're not accepting the Bitcoins, and so is it something that you were looking to introduce in your business?
Just for clarification, our partnership is to roll out a CBDC, a central bank issued digital currency, which is slightly different from the Bitcoin and the other digital currencies that's available. Yeah, this was regulated by the central bank, so they have more comfort in that. We see that as a gateway into getting the central banks more comfortable with the decentralized currencies like a Bitcoin, like a Dogecoin. So it's a gateway into that, but we start with central bank issued digital currencies.
Okay.
To get them comfortable before they get into that Bitcoin.
What's your time? What do you think is a time frame for soup to nuts? Even with the hurdles that you're going to run into, what do you think?
Most there's like 1, 2, 3 central banks already have their CBDCs.
Okay.
We're just trying to link them together. so that we could use it as a
You know,
settlement.
I wanted to say the name Trinidad and Tobago there, but where are you with the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago getting on board?
But we leave that for part 2.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Aldwyn Wayne, CEO of WiPay, a technology company, for taking the time out from his busy schedule, for sharing some time and thoughts with us. I would say go forth and continue to multiply the business and the growth.
I thank you guys.